And we're back. I spruced up a bit because it is evening time now, and I want to do a reading out of these cards. I don't know what to expect. I have not looked at these cards at all, aside from barely glancing at them, but I didn't actually see any of the cards. It claims it to be a tarot deck, but I don't think it is one I know. I don't think it's one I know, and I'm not going to follow a guidebook. I'm just gonna do a normal oracle like I do off of everything. This is the first time I'm shuffling the deck. Very nice. The cards are a little bit thin, but very smooth. They feel very nice. They're nice quality. It's not like thin in a bad way. And maybe that's in part in comparison because the Adventure Time deck is so thick. That was rather difficult to work with, to be honest. But no, I enjoyed it. I did not expect to do a 2-hour reading. So, sorry, my last video is in 2 parts and is 2 hours long. I would prefer to keep these shorter just because I know most people don't have the time to sit there and invest that amount of time into readings. I was considering doing lives and seeing if that starts like facilitating more traffic through here. I may start moving in this direction in the future, just to not necessarily get more people watching. I mean, that would be beneficial when it came to like pursuing this as a career. I would like to eventually be able to monetize, but that's never my actual focus as much as kind of just following the proper energy and making sure that things are the best they can be, making sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to. And it's not like I feel fully driven to like insist upon monetization of my reads yet. However, I am, especially now that I have these other decks, I think it'd make it a lot funner. So I would like to monetize. If you would, not even just through YouTube, but like just in general, if you would like a reading at all, I would love to start doing personal readings. Obviously, if I do personal readings for myself, it's always going to come out one particular way. It'd be nice to actually be able to work with other people's energy that way. I will do it for extremely reasonable prices. I was thinking of just kind of having it be tip whatever you feel like it's worth, whatever you can tip, just accepting that, but starting to offer my services that way would be great. That is something I would like to do. Yeah, that's about it. That's about it. I don't actually have a plan for what I'm going to be talking about necessarily. I had this feeling of, there's just this weird feeling of like deceit and trickery going on. I'm not sure exactly what that is. I know different things that feel that way, but I'm not sure exactly what's leading into that energy, and I don't know if that's going to come out in this. Looking at this deck, like when I ordered this deck, it is pretty dark and gothic. It's a hermetic deck. It's the hermetic deck, so it's going to have a lot of esoteric. This is extremely deep. This is likely, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to even be able to read this deck as deep as it is for some time. It's going to take me some time to work with it before I fully am able to tap into these energies. But it does have this like darkness about it. I'm looking at the back of the deck, right? I'm not even looking at the cards. But it does have this darkness to it. And so I imagined that it will likely resonate with karmic reads. Reads about karmic cycles, karmic people, karmic situations. I don't know for sure. As always, anything that I read that has any sort of level of anything, everything I'm doing is to move towards a sense of alchemy. I'm always alchemizing all of these things. That's part of my oracle process. So, I don't know, I'm getting a different energy off of this. Like, maybe I won't be alchemizing this as much. What I'm feeling right now is like, maybe I need to work with this one to start just taking it as it is. It's weird, and maybe this is like in part like the desire to get new sets of cards and to kind of start doing this like more and branching out in my energy this way. Because with the Adventure Time deck, I felt like maybe I should only take uprights. Like I shouldn't read reversals. I should always turn them in the upright and read them that way. But it came with reversals, so I accepted that. I tend to read with reversals. That's very much part of my own personal alchemy. A definitive concept of positive and negative. The thing about this deck, being the Hermetic deck, especially, did I say especially again? I keep doing that. Especially. When I was referencing it being dark, I feel like a lot of people are intimidated by tarot to begin with, right? And they're intimidated by these things that they have identified as witchcraft. Again, and I've said this in multiple videos, and I've said this to multiple people, and I'll keep saying it. If you were to ask an actual witch, like somebody who claims to be a witch, if you were and like practices witchcraft openly, if you were to ask them if I'm a witch, they would laugh at you. If I were to say that I was a witch, they would laugh at me. They would be upset about it because this isn't witchcraft. But it is a craft. It is a craft. But I'm not a witch. If anything, I'm a wizard. I am an alchemist. It is magic. It is magic. But, and this is why Christians, like, generally don't engage in any of these things or understand any of these concepts. Christians believe everything to be demonic, except, of course, Christianity, or their theology. But they would deem everything as witchcraft, simply because they're not well educated about what things are. And particularly if they're pagan, they would be considered satanic or demonic. I am not a devil worshiper. So even things that, like upside down crosses or upside down pentagrams, like they do not resonate with me, innately demonic. That's what I try to explain to Christians. Like, you're the one giving power to demons, to be clear. You are the demon worshiper here, if any of us are. But, and I don't, I don't believe that all forms of magic are dark and evil. And I believe that not all darkness is evil. And I believe that I don't even believe in evil. I don't support things that way. So, it's not for me to convince you of your beliefs, but I try to explain mine so that you can understand why I read the way that I do, and hopefully that will help you to be able to receive the most out of these readings. However, people are free to do what they will, and if you watch my readings or any of my videos or engage with any of my social media with the intent to find things that you can be offended by, things that you can judge and assess as evil. I mean, if those are the things that are in your heart to find and you're seeking that out on my page, like, you're bound to find it. You're bound to find it anywhere you look in life. I guarantee you walk down the street and see demonic shit too. It's not because those things exist outside of you. It's because that's how powerful your manifestation is. And you don't even know yourself. And you think you're righteous by pointing out the demonism and everything else, not realizing that you're the one manifesting that. Okay? I mean, I've literally, like, had people that are devil worshippers assault me, and I don't give it power. And so those things don't have that power over me. But it's literally do what you will. It's the whole of the law, not because some Satanist said it. That's literally the reality of things. That's the reality in which we exist. I live off of symbology. Symbols are very important to me. They always have been. I grew up in churches that swore that being given to symbols is demonic. Meanwhile, they all have crosses on their walls in their homes and on the back of the church and on the front of their Bibles, and then act like symbols are a bad thing. No, they just get to define what symbols are right and what they mean when they're using pagan symbols to begin with. The cross is a fucking torture device. So, like, if you come in here with that type of energy, you're not going to feel particularly welcome. And that's fine by me. And if you want to think that these things are dark and wicked, that's on you. My hope is that I can be as genuine as possible and that I can embody the fullness of both my light and dark so that others can find their own light and can be brought to the light through those things without feeling damned, without feeling forced, without feeling coerced. You know, again, why I don't practice witchcraft. I'm not trying to force or coerce anybody into anything. But I am trying to be true to myself. And a large part of who I am, it has always revolved around darkness, dark aspects, things that people are quick to damn, quick to judge, quick to be afraid of, quick to be grossed out by, you know. I've been surrounded by death since I was born. My dad died when I was 6 weeks old. It's been a part of my life since I was born. I've had a lot of friends die. I have, you know, been assaulted many, many times. I've had a lot of pain, a lot of strife, a lot of turmoil in my own personal life and also in the lives of those that are close to me. I grew up in weird culty circles where a lot of people ended up, you know, being abused and getting on drugs, and there was always just a lot of fuckery that type of way. I've also always been into stuff like frogs and snails and spiders and snakes. I don't see those things as definitively evil. I don't see anything as definitively evil. I think it's incredibly narcissistic and distorted and separated from the one true God to view any part of creation as wholly separate from oneself or the light of life. I believe that even cockroaches deserve to live as much as we do, and it's just all a matter of the food chain. I don't think a lion is evil if it eats a person. I don't think a person is evil if they kill a lion. You know, I think that it's all innate. I think that it's all a matter of what we do with it. I think that humans have a capacity for wickedness that the rest of creation isn't inherently given to, it would appear, at least. But I think a lot of that also is based off of our own capacity to perceive things based on our own personal experience of it. And so I try very hard not to give that too much consideration and power, simply for the fact that I don't think it's ultimately beneficial. I think that there is much unknown in our lives and experiences, and that's an important aspect of our lives and experience. And yeah, a lot is about embracing the unknown, embracing the darkness. There's a reason that we deal with light and darkness every single day. Every single day. The sun and the moon are important every single day. Okay. So that's about the extent of that. I don't know exactly where that came from, but I guess sometimes it feels like there's energies watching me just for the sake of casting judgment, as if they're the ones that have the right to, and I just like to remind people of the reality of things as much as possible. It's not for me to choose for people what they do with those things, but that is where we're at. Okay. Sorry. Sorry. I had a salad, a spinach salad with chickpeas and tomatoes and olives and banana peppers and pickled beets because I'm fucking like 80. It was delicious. It was wonderful. Loved it, but it did kind of blow me a bit. I need to fast. I need to fast the next few days. That's where I'm at. I was trying to today, and then I caught myself already eating. So I was like, okay, well, I guess we will do it tomorrow. If I'm already doing this, it's because that's what is necessary. It's what I need to do, obviously. I wasn't going to waste the food, but I definitely need, it's too many. I'd like to fast. Okay. That's so many cards, isn't it? Let's see how many just came out. Okay, we have 5 total, so we'll go with these. And they all came out in the reverse? Okay. Oh, well, they all came out in the reverse except for the devil card. So, perfect. Right in alignment with what we're already talking about. Okay. Okay, so first we have the devil card in the upright. And man, this shit. Oh, it's so wild. This deck is... So there's a lot about the Goetia that I don't know, but I can recognize. I didn't study it, but I know it. And that's the feeling I'm getting of this whole deck, kind of, to be honest. But like these 2 characters down here in the normal Rider-Waite tarot, the normal tarot that I'm used to is like an Adam and Eve character. But here, they are both demons. I don't know which demons, but I do recognize them as demons. Not just because this dude has a pitchfork and has like these kind of horn looking ears. He looks like a demon, but it's not even that. There's other aspects that in that type of occult study, the demons are chimeras. Chimera, I believe is how you say the word. They are an abomination. They're a mix of different animals, people, in different ways that seem abominable. It was a common concept, like during the Bible times, that anything that was like these chimeras, like they were innately demonic. Anything that kind of had this weird intermingling between human and beast was considered demonic. Which is why, like, in the Rider-Waite tarot, there's the, like in the world card, you have the 4 beasts of the apocalypse. They're mentioned in Revelation as, you know, like this thing with like a human face and like 7 horns and leopard feet, like that kind of concept, right? In the Goetia and other, I can't say like forms of the occult, but in these other mystery schools, kind of, there's teachings like on devils, specific devils, and then they, with with the elements that they have within them, like that converges into the power that they have. And according to Jewish tradition, that's what would make it innately demonic, is because like there's a certain intermeshing of certain chemistry that you just don't do, because if you do, the powers that come from that are abominable. In the Jewish tradition, it's the same as the concept of like you don't mix certain linens with other certain linens and come up with like lycra or polyester are considered demonic, because of their intermeshing, and because of the way that it the reaction that comes from that. Okay, so these two characters, you know, we have this guy who has a human face. He has kind of a distorted body. He has breasts like a woman. Then he has these webbed feet, kind of like a frog. He has a pitchforked tail. And he has these like bug-looking claws. Kind of look like bug claws, like spider paws, how their claws look. And then this other demon has like a giant nose. He has 4 pitched ears. They're pointed. His second pair of ears is like, has 2 tips, but they're all pointed. He has like this big scraggly mouth. He has a big pot belly. His tail is long and twisted. He has, I don't see a head on the tail, but his feet are snakes. And he has a pitchfork. The one on the devil's left is tied by his hands, and the one on the devil's right is tied by his throat. In the Rider-Waite tarot, the devil has the pentagram on his forehead, but this devil has a third eye, long twisted horns that have this feeling of like the DNA strand, right? The double helix. And he's not positioned straight ahead. He's looking straight ahead, but he's actually positioned to his right. It's a very masculine arm. He does have his part robe. It doesn't, the original, the normal, like the tarot deck I'm used to has, the devil is depicted as essentially like a perfect Baphomet. Like it's kind of the Baphomet, and it's this concept of like male and female parts fully integrated, and that's also how it's depicted as like the Adam and Eve characters. But in this, and I wish that I knew Hebrew, anybody that practices like, there's certain different types of witchcraft and Satanism that get into the Hebrew letters. Because there's a Hebrew word here, there's a Hebrew letter here. There is I don't think it's just the Goetia. I don't know for sure. There's another sigil here. And I'm assuming that the sigils, oh, that might just be the artist's sigil himself. Yeah, it's on every card, so I'm assuming that's just the artist's sigil. But there's other symbols and sigils that, like this one here, which I know is one of, well, I thought this was one of Lucifer, but I must be mistaken. I don't know if you can fully see that. Yeah, there's a lot. That's why I know that these are super deep. There's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot I don't know. So I have to read them like an overall energy. But he's facing to his right. You know, well, we have the pentagram is in, and I keep forgetting what this is called, the disc with the wings. There's a word for it. It's Egyptian. He has bat-like wings. He has his torch, but in the regular tarot, his torch is pointed down and touching Adam's tail. In this, his sword is up. I mean, his torch is up. He's a happy double, he is. And honestly, his little demons don't look terribly upset to be entrapped to him or enslaved by him. One looks almost like smug, and this other one looks like a bit sheepish. He has a crown of thorns above his head, and then a bat above that, but the bat looks dead. And then there's the masculine symbol, and I'm pretty sure this is Saturn? I should look up this symbol because I noticed it on this card too multiple times. Yeah, I'm gonna have to study these cards for sure. Sorry, I'm not well versed. I used to be back when I was like in my mid-20s. I knew these symbols a lot more. I could recognize them a lot easier, but I've kind of gotten away from them. It's not. It's like, it's like Sagittarius. Is it Capricorn? Capricorn's normally the devil. But I don't think that's what Capricorn looks like. I guess I could kind of see that as Capricorn. The male symbol here, I think, is that Capricorn? Sorry. Okay. That is our first card. I know I didn't read that at all. I just looked at it. I'm going to kind of explain these and then I will pull an oracle out of them. Okay, our second card. Oh, that's the devil. Okay, so this is the devil card in the upright and it says Lord of the Gates of Matter. Ha. That's my little key. Lord of the Gates of Matter, the material world. The gatekeeper to the material world. So it's carnality, right? And I've brought that up with the devil card before. The master of carnality, hedonism, but in its most carnal aspect. Okay. Now we have the Queen of Wands. In the reverse, Queen of the Thrones of Flame. The Queen of Wands. As above, so below. She has a leopard, a winged leopard above her. She's wearing scaled armor. She has fire coming out of her head. She has a long scarf. She has a long staff. Oh, interesting. She has this very long staff with a sphere on one end. And it's giving, like, it's almost like a cactus tail on the other. It's a shepherd's staff, right? And you know how the shepherd's staff has the curve? So it has the curve, but then in the tip of that curve is like this weird, it's almost like there's spikes right there, and then there's this like fluffy stuff on top, and it almost like, I don't know, it's giving me like a feel of like some type of cactus, something rather. She is sitting on a throne. You can only see part of it, and it's represented on the corner of the throne is a leopard head. And then this is also a leopard with wings above her. She's in flames, and there is 2 perfectly full circles behind her, but they're not conjoined in the way that they are in like the infinity symbol. They're separate. And this is represented by Pisces and 2 Aries right here. Okay, that's in reverse. Our next card is the 9 of Pentacles, Lord of Material Gain. That's in the reverse. There is the female symbol here and here, but it's also in the sun symbol. That might have its own significance within like the actual type of, I can't say what type of work. There's so many different types of like Satanism, witchcraft, devil worship, occult practices, mystery schools that get into these forms of symbology. So I can't say exactly what each one is or specifically stands for. It might have a very specific connotation, but that's how I'm reading it. What we see is that it's the 9 of Pentacles, and we see that these 9 coins are actually in the positioning of the Tree of Life. If you know the Tree of Life, according to, is it called the Hermetic Tree of Life? I believe it might be. And around this, or kind of within, caught up in this, is there 3, 6, 9? So represented behind it or with it, in cohesion with it, are these 9 poppies. They are the Rose of Sharon. They're wild roses. They're wild roses, essentially. This is Virgo. And really, each of those pentacles represents the sun. Not the sun, the object, the sun, but they all have the metaphor of the sun and contain that energetically. Then we have the 4 of Pentacles as our 4th card, the Lord of Earthly Power. Lord of Earthly Power. I just almost had that word. What is it called when there is a disc with wings? Dude, it's a common word. I can't think of it. And it originally comes from like, well, actually, I think it even goes past Egyptian. It was very common in Egyptian hieroglyphics, but I think it's even used in like the Sumerian texts, in the Vedic texts, both. But this sun disc, right, with the wings, and then you have these suns that have, it's the Star of David symbol, but it also has a swastika. Not a swastika like the Nazis, like the Nazis swastika, but the it's not Himsa, the Tibetan symbol that the Nazis took and used to create the swastika. I don't know what it's called, but it's a symbol of peace, unity, and community. And really, even these symbols within the discs also symbolize that. But what's funny, it's not funny, but I watched a movie recently where it was about this order of priests in Great Britain. I don't know. The one dude was Scottish, but the other dude was English, and I couldn't tell if they were in England or Scotland, where it took place. But it was like this order of Catholics who were investigating this priest who had like been making claims of miracles happening in his church, and they ended up like finding this relation to an ancient pagan god that had actually been worshipped on the land that church ended up being built on. And so they had this priest come from, like a high priest, come from the Vatican, and he found the symbol that, like the symbol of this pagan god, and he was using it for a ritual. And they were all like offended by that. The other priests and other Catholics, because they were like, this is a high priest from the Vatican. Like, why is he practicing this pagan thing? And he was trying to explain that, like, that pagan god actually, what's the word? Like, prior to the church being there. Like, he existed prior, like, this god existed prior to the Catholic Church. And so that you had to honor it, essentially, and that, like, to some degree, and that they were like, well, what does the symbol mean? And he was like, well, it's kind of like the title or the name of, or like the way to, it's the image of, or the symbol for this pagan god, but it's beyond us. Like, we don't actually know. It's before, like, I don't have that information. This is from something much older than the Catholic Church. And again, now we have this rose, which is different. All these things are so deep, and all of these things hold significance. And I know enough to be able to read that, but I don't know enough to, like, and I don't remember enough, because it's been a minute since I've studied these things, to, like, be able to definitively be like, all right, this concept means this thing, especially in context with each other. But we have a black hole sun, and then we have this rose, which is like, flowers are just flowers. And generally when you're reading random tarot, like, the flowers don't really mean anything of specific significance necessarily, depending on how they're depicted. But, like, this flower is very different from these flowers, right? This one. And it's very different from this flower on the back, which is like a lotus style flower. And, like, this one is like 100-petal lotus, where this is just a regular lotus sort of deal. So they all have their own significance. And, like, this symbol is here again. The symbol it's here. And I thought that this was a specific symbol for Lucifer, the light bearer, but I could be mistaken. And the thing is that it's both here and here. You know, and then you have the divine hand holding the wand. And the wand, you know, is of thorns. It has this rose on it. It also comes up to these pentacles. No, No, it only comes up to these pentacles, but these ones are separate. So these ones are physical, these ones are spiritual. And this is the Lord of Earthly Power. I love this deck, to be clear. It excites me to get back into studying these things and knowing these things. This is, I mean, this is why I never learned. I took French for 4 months and that was about it. I like don't recall a lot of that. I was gonna learn Spanish, but never really got much into that. I know English very well, although I might not always speak it terribly well. Sometimes I use the wrong words, but I do actually know English very well, better than the average American English speaker. But when I started getting into esoterica, like I really, it's like a whole nother language. Symbology is a whole nother language. Numerology is a whole nother language. Those are all separate, and they're all separate from each other, and they have all these differences in them. And so like studying those things was like worlds, like studying these different worlds. And like once I was indulged in it, I could understand things a lot better, and I started seeing things a lot more. But like I've been kind of removed from that for a minute, so forgive me. So we have the Five of Pentacles. We have that same, this is more like, instead of it being like the Tibetan swastika, this is like a more Scottish rite. That ancient symbol that I was just talking about, that was in that movie, it has more of a European heritage, like the Scottish rite. And then there's 2 sparrows here, but if you look at them closely, they actually, in the upright at least, look very much like the Baphomet itself. You know, they have like the ears and the face and the horns, but they're sparrows. Also, within these circles, all of these lines, I know it's hard to see on my phone because it's not coming totally clear, but it's actually the flower of life in sacred geometry, but kind of stretched out and pulled together. You know those, like in physics, you'll find those like balls that you can play with, and like they get very compact and then they open up, and they have a whole matrices that allows for that flexibility, and that's kind of what this depiction is, like that. There's across here, there's this symbol of Omega. I don't know if it means something separate when it's up. Oh well, I mean, this is the card in the upright. This is the Omega symbol, but in reverse, and it has like these horns. I don't know if it means something different when it's upright, or if it's part of this cross, like if it's creating like this symbol in of itself, but they are separate. Also, there's the same sort of poppy flowers here, but these ones are actually dying and withering and are losing their petals. These two, they're barely existent. You have the long horns, which is kind of, that's not depictive of a goat. That is more depicted, like the double helix horns here are depictive of a ram, but these horns are depictive of Taurus. And then you have even like these 2 symbols like are also depictive of Taurus. I believe this is actually Taurus, and then this is Mars, Jupiter, Neptune. I'm so bad at this. It's a symbol for one of our planets, which were, you know, for a really long time, especially in like the Greeks, were considered the gods. The planets were. You had Mercury, you had Venus, Mars. Those weren't. They were considered demigods, with the sun being God, and the Earth being mother, and the other planets being siblings. Actually, I don't know, because like that goes into different traditions too. Gaia being mother and Luna, our moon, also having its own entity. But even back in those ancient times, they recognized like the other planets' moons and stuff like that too. So the whole celestial environment was often depicted as the heavens, right? And that's where the gods lived, and all of these different, and it was coming off of astrology in general, where the concept was that, like, depending on where certain planets and stars are in the sky at any given time of year, they influence the magnetism and energy here on Earth, which we are extremely influenced by. So those things were extremely meaningful, not even just in spiritual senses, but in an almost scientific sense back then, right? Okay, and then you notice that this disc not only has the Taurus horns, it also has wings above the horns. Like, all of this stuff is so deeply symbolic, and like, if I were reading these better, that would cater to the depth in which I was reading. I might just point those things out. I might actually already recognize this and just have a definitive name for it, and then not even count any of those things as part of it. But all of those things, I mean, symbology is so crazy, because like it's art, and it takes on like this, like all these different forms of art, like they end up being terribly significant depending on where they're placed, and all of that. So you also have the same symbols here on these rocks. And this is the Lord of Material Trouble. Huh. I like that too. So like this deck, before I started reading into it, did already have like this, like, I don't know what the better word for it. Like, I already said, like, dark and kind of gothic concept, but it's the Hermetic deck. But like, Hermeticism means something specific to me that doesn't innately mean demonic. But like, there is a lot of devil worship depicted to degrees here. But not in like some innately negative sense. It's, like I said, like, I really like this, like the Lord of Material Trouble. Like, that's, the Catholics, like, when they consider the demons, like they have a whole book of demons and demonology, and like each of these demons has like a specific role in hell or on earth, and like these are ways to understand certain concepts and certain powers and certain experiences in our lives. Yeah, I wish I knew the Hebrew. That, out of all of these things, that's going to be the one that is hardest, that I probably won't get to translating until I've had this deck for like 20 years. Because I simply don't know. Also, I don't know if these are even fully Jewish. I mean, if it's Hebrew text, or if it's, I think it's just original Arabic, now that I'm looking at it. So there's some letters that seem Hebrew, but I think it's actually Arabic, because this doesn't look Hebrew per se. Okay, this is also in the reverse. The Queen of the Thrones of Flame, the Lord of Material Gain, the Lord of Earthly Power, and the Lord of Material Trouble. The fact that the Lord of Material Gain and the Lord of Material Trouble are both here, but it's all in the reverse. make it positive. And really like, so, okay, we have the devil in the upright, and that's the only card that we have in the upright, which is great because it's showing us that like when you step into this negative energy, this seeming negative energy, into the concept of darkness, into when you aren't afraid to embrace other concepts and to look into them and to understand them on a deeper level, then that's bringing a lot of different things with it. Really interesting. I like, so we have the devil first, and then the immediate card after that, the Queen of the Throne of Flames, the Thrones of Flame, is the only card out here. The devil has numbers and a symbol, but the rest of them don't. This on the border, but this has the as above, so below triangles on the border, and it's our second card. So it's showing me that like one, there's always this balance between positive and negative. And in that, there also always is the power to alchemize these things. So like, just because it has like the Queen of the Thrones of Flame, the Lord of Material Gain, for instance, and the Lord of Earthly Power, just because those are in the reverse doesn't mean that it's innately negative. This deck actually, because the perception of it would be that it's innately negative because it's so demonic, seeming like it isn't. It isn't any of that. It speaks in the darkness so that everything can be taken and alchemized into a positive way. It's just speaking on these very dark powers, and dark as in, you know, the most carnal aspect of humanity, of reality, of any of these particular powers. The most base core aspect, right? You strip away everything else, and then what you have is that base coreness. Everything is black and white. I do appreciate that too, that everything is very black and white. But at the same time, even that in of itself is very definitive of there being this give and take, and you can't have one without the other, and this integration of being able to pull from that different levels of positivity. But again, I don't want to just do what I normally do and just alchemize this all into something innately positive, because I don't think that's what this deck is for. I think this deck is very much about being able to look into one's darker aspects and into the darker aspects of different situations, and to be able to kind of almost like have your hand held while with all of these different symbols. I mean, there's so much information packed into each one of these cards, and so it's like having all of that education in order to like move you through these different, you know, these different darknesses, or these different points of uncertainty, or these different points of anything at all. It's only because because these came out in the reverse that it's taking on this sort of like innately negative connotation, because it truly wouldn't be like that at all if it were all in the upright. But the fact that the devil is the one that we have in the upright is extremely positive, because it's depictive of the fact that like if this is the first step, is to embrace this, then like everything falls into place afterwards. Now it's crazy because we have 3 cards of Pentacles. The 9, the 4, and the 5. So these almost, yeah, are like... The 4 of Pentacles is quite positive. You have the wand, it's in the upright. Well, the cards are in the reverse, but you have the wand. It's powerful. You have the flower, you have the 4 Pentacles. This 5 of Pentacles has an innate negativity to it. You have the Lord of Earthly Power and the Lord of Material Trouble. But you put them together and you have the 9 of Pentacles, the Lord of Material Gain. Which is great, So the Lord of Material Trouble, and it's in the reverse, so it's already positive, but like the Lord of Material Trouble like has this feeling of like not having everything that you need, right, in order to be able to succeed. It's you know, an anxiety around one's material possessions. Maybe it's like, you know, your car breaking down, or you're physically ill, or you lost your job, or, you know, your girlfriend left you, or, you know, it's something innately negative seeming. But in the reverse, it's this power of alchemizing that into something greater. And then it comes with the Lord of Earthly Power, which in the reverse is like not trusting, not having to trust just your senses and just what it is that you have, not just materially, but in general. Not just, you don't, it's not even about having the right friends to rely on, or the right people to go to, or the right answers here and there. It's about being able truly to trust oneself. The Lord of Material Gain in the reverse is that it's not just a material gain that we're coming to. It's a clear mind. It's a clear capacity of oneself. But truly, like, even in that's in the reverse, but like if these were in the upright, like material trouble with earthly power leads to material gain. And that is kind of the entire core aspect of alchemy, right? Is that like you make something out of nothing. Not because nothing exists, you have your power. So you can make something out of nothing. You first conceive of nothing, and then you can conceive of something, and then you transmute them into one another. In the reverse, though, it's just giving me this feeling of like it's so much deeper than just what's right on the surface. And that's what's so cool to me about symbology, and why I first got into the occult in the first place, is because like at first it seemed so scary and so like intimidating, and so like I was raised Christian. It was something that I was taught like you should be afraid of, and it's all innately demonic. But I learned through years of education and through people that like had also been deemed demonic, that there was just so much not to fear. And like it was in the embracing of these types of things that I actually learned to embrace my faith as a Christian. I don't call myself a Christian, but like I do have faith in the power of death over death. I put death to death. I have faith in my own resurrection. I have faith in myself as the Word of God in the flesh. You know, in the way that I am a joint heir with Christ. I am a Christ. I have equal inheritance with Christ. I have just as much, if not more, power now here on earth than he had even back in his time, because of the Holy Spirit. And all of these things that I do are very depictive of that. That's the point of why I do these things, is to be able to show people how I've embraced those aspects, and how I've cultivated them within me, and how I've let them drive me and move me into places I likely would not have gone otherwise, and to see the success in that, so that they no longer have to fear those things either. Don't fear where you're being called by the universe. These things will end up for good to those who love good. The Queen of the Thrones of Flame. The sphere is depictive, like a sphere is like a realm, a reality, everything coming full circle. She has two circles, which is cyclical, or definitive of cycles ending and closing, or a beginning and closing. The leopard. The leopard is a symbol of not stubbornness, because a lion can also be a symbol of stubbornness, but it's like a symbol of like stability, of certainty of self, of being able to, it is a symbol of like cloaking, of being hidden, camouflaged. But it's also like, you know, like a tiger can't change their stripes, a leopard can't change their spots. So it has that energy to it too. The fact that like it's eating the fire coming out of her head. Okay, so she's hot-headed. She's the queen of the throne of passions. But this leopard, this transfiguration, this willingness, this capacity to blend in, is eating that fire on her head. It's a winged leopard, right? So it's like not about subduing your passions, but about kind of consuming them in a way that you can use to your benefit rather than letting them consume you. There's so much here that I don't understand, to be honest. It's a bit intimidating. It's more just exciting for me because I would like to learn, but I do apologize because I know that this is kind of like a lacking reading that way. There's just so much I don't know or don't fully understand, but her scales right now on her breastplate are reminding me of a pine cone, which has the significance of it's the pineal gland. It's intuition, inner knowledge, the seed of consciousness within us. Okay, so what I'm getting out of this reading is like, I'm going to use my personal metaphor, and hopefully this helps to take it for you to do what you need with it. I've been celibate for 6 months. And when I first chose to become celibate, it was because I was honestly tired of feeling used sexually. I felt like I was giving my all and that I was receiving a lot physically, but nothing intellectually, spiritually, emotionally. I felt like those aspects of what I was putting into my sexuality were being exploited for the benefit of the pleasure of sexuality and were not being exchanged or exchanged with for the same, or like even appreciated properly. They're just being exploited. And it was leaving me feeling like I was being undervalued. Over the course of the 6 months, I did slip up once, and in that experience, when I had first made the vow that I had made was, I'm just not going to engage sexually until I've established a deeper, more intimate, personal, genuine relationship with somebody. And once I know that that's what we really have, then I'm willing to engage sexually. But I'm done just like having fun with the most sacred aspect of myself, one of the most sacred aspects of myself. I want it to mean more. But I found myself falling for this person very easily and then trying to give myself to them, and it ended up just fucking everything up. And I was like, damn, I essentially broke my celibacy. I didn't have sex with them, but it was like I broke my celibacy just for this fucked up, extremely quick little situation that didn't lead into anything. And so I kind of doubled down on the abstinence at that point, to a degree. But I also then, like, as time continued to progress, like, I found myself, like, wanting to engage again sexually, casually, the ways that I always have. So that was a bit of a temptation. But I also realized that, like, there's so much of my sexual aspect that I consider all of it sacred, but there's so much of it that, like, I very much just enjoy expressing openly, casually, freely. And I want to continue to be able to do that, but in a way that is truly actually beneficial, in a way that's not leaving me feeling like I'm just being used, in a way that's not making me feel like I'm not being properly appreciated. This is one of the most sacred aspects of myself, and I'm an incredibly, like, valuable individual. So for these things to not be valued by people outside of myself who are receiving it as much as I value it is wild to me, and not something I can continue to just support. It's something that I have to do something about. And so I kind of then found myself, like, I had convinced myself that, like, in this suppression of my sexuality, I would be forcing people to get to know me on deeper levels and thus have genuine, actual respect for me outside of just what I can offer to them sexually. But ultimately, I find that to be rather controlling in a way that I am not trying to be. And I also find it suppressive, which I'm not trying to be either. And it's kind of deflective, even. It's almost like an excuse, right? And I found myself using an excuse, like, well, I have this vow of celibacy, so, like, I can't sleep with you. But, like, because somebody had already made me feel like that's what they were after, like, I just, like, kind of put these blocks up. And then I'm not letting people get to know me genuinely. Also, people, like, have gotten to know me genuinely and do value many different things about me. But, like, that also is only adding to their sexual attraction to me. And it's not for me to, like, try to make them feel bad about that. They're not bad people just because they're sexually attracted to me. Like, there's so many different other ways that they're also attracted to me, and it's very hard for me to, like, receive all of that when it comes to my sexuality for some reason. And I was trying to figure that out, and then I realized that it's like, oh, that's because I'm saying that I value my sexuality, but I continue to try to use it in this devaluing way. That's the problem. It's not them, it's me. You know? So what am I going to do with all this? What does all of this mean? And, like, I've always struggled with this kind of, like, I've always wanted to do some type of sex work, like, literally since I was in middle school. And, like, the only times, aside from when I've been, like, super, super gung-ho for religious purposes, like, religiously, then I've tended to, like, become more abstinent, or I've been, like, yeah, abstinent in a lot of different ways. But, like, that ultimately is not a true reflection of who I really am. It's not that I'm not a disciplined person, a self-respecting person, and a prudent person, but I'm not a prude. I'm a pervert, and I don't think that that's innately evil, even though that technically is even what perversion is. Like, what gets me going is when it's already crossing a boundary, right? But unless I embrace those things about myself, like, truly, if I just keep suppressing these things, like, I went to a 12-step program for my sex addiction, for my porn addiction. Like, I've learned how to suppress these things in different ways, but, like, it's never been truly beneficial. And, like, ultimately, like, that isn't even what the 12-step program was supposed to be helping me do. The whole point was for me to be able to engage in a healthy way with my own sexuality. And I just haven't fully gotten there yet. So what this is depicting to me is that, like, embracing my darkness, embracing these carnal aspects of myself that I've always deemed as innately evil, when truly it's not. I mean, it's the same thing as, like, defining a chimera as innately evil just because it's an abomination, when, like, I don't believe in those terms religiously. I don't believe in things that way. I think that what is best is for things to be sustainable. So yes, I think that it's technically an abomination for a mule and a pony to have a baby because that baby can't reproduce for itself, right? So that's not fully sustainable. But it's also not evil. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know. So I need to continue to put away those concepts of evil because it's not helping me to actually get into a good point of sustainability. And largely in part because I am an extremely sexual being. That's a huge part of who I am. And it's something I've actually always been quite proud of. The only time I don't feel that sense of genuine, like, connection with it and pride with it is when I'm caring about other people's opinions about it. And when I'm, like, trying to, like, well, a lot of women don't like that and have harsh judgments about it, or my family has these harsh judgments about it, when, like, I don't even care about those people's opinions. I really don't. I don't care about anybody's opinion but my own. I want to be able to sleep at night at peace with myself. And I can't keep evading who I really am and trying to like not actively lie about who I am, but convince myself that I'm something other than that I am in order to meet these certain standards, thinking that that's going to give me this feeling of genuine success and satisfaction when I'm actively, constantly suppressing aspects of myself. And I truly believe that in embracing certain aspects of myself, and the more that I'm willing to do so, the less I'll keep damning myself. And the more that I'll actually be able to like move through those things and be like, oh, okay, now I did this thing. Now I see that it's not that bad. It's part of who I am. I can handle that, you know, but also like, I don't have to feel like there's this thing I'm constantly suppressing. And then I can even be like, okay, this isn't for me, but I know that now. You know, for the most part, I know myself very well. And I don't have to do things just to know who I am, right? I'm not totally dense, but I am a pretty dense person too. And that's part of embracing who I really am. It doesn't make me some evil, bad person to have to go through certain things just to truly know myself. At least I'm willing to do the work to truly know myself. And yeah, that thing might be embarrassing in the end. Yeah, that thing might like lead to a lot of judgment in the end, but I would rather take on those things and then be able to come to a genuine acceptance of myself through those things than to continue to deny those things, suppress those things, act like I'm in some moral high ground for that, only to, like I keep mentioning, like I was a hospice nurse. I don't want to end up at the end of my life feeling a sense of regret and remorse and guilt for not being genuine. Right? Like, sometimes I think about things that I've done and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. But that's who I am. That's part of me. There is not anything like, yeah, there's stuff I don't like everybody to know, but if everybody did know, I could accept that. Anything that I've done in my life, and that's hard. It took me a really long time to get there. I'm not proud of everything. It's not like I'm like gung-ho, put it on a t-shirt, let me wear it around. But being willing to embrace things that way has given me far more grace, far more confidence, far more sense of consistency, discipline, stability than consistently suppressing those things has ever done. So that's what I'm getting from this too, is that a lot of it's like, you know, take the good with the bad, take the bad with the good. Quit trying to judge everything as so like innately this or definitely this. Be open to working through these things and find that like you're not in control of everything. Your own world isn't even like your whole world. Like there's so much you don't know. There's so much I don't know. There's so much I don't understand. There's so many things that like I already do know, I kind of do understand, and I still have to go through another 35 times before I really fully get it. And I'm not getting any younger. That shit ain't gonna happen unless I actually do it, right? So it's awkward. It's hard. There's so many things that like I can make jokes about all day. I can do it on the internet, but then when people meet me in person, I'm like, I'm real straightforward. I'm real, you know, chaste. I'm real like I don't, you know, cuss and be all dirty and perverted and stuff in front of people and stuff like that. And like ultimately, like I'm all of those things, and I can be all of those things, and I don't need to keep hiding. It's okay for me to accept who I am and how I am and to move forward in those things and to be strong and to be confident in that. That's what's important. It doesn't matter what other people think about it or what other people do with it. I'm not in control of other people. I'm in control of me. And I cannot sleep at night, rest assured that I'm an honest, genuine person if there's large important aspects of who I am as a person that I'm consistently suppressing. And until I accept those things, receive those things, work through those things, expressing them, and then, it's until I can recognize them, identify them, and actually engage with them, I can't release them properly. It's like, if they're not really from me, running from them isn't going to keep them away from me. letting them move through me and then past me is the only thing that's really going to let that shit go. So, like, I don't know what the future holds. And it is intimidating. I don't care about getting embarrassed. I'm a fucking weird person. I'm into some weird shit. I don't need other people's validation. Other people don't even know themselves. Right? It's more important to know yourself than it is to, like, know anything else. Nothing else actually exists. Man, I really like this deck, but I have got a lot to learn. I've got a lot to learn. I hope that going through this a little bit was at least educational, entertaining. Let's see what comes of it. We'll see what comes of it in the future. We'll see what the future holds. I'm still feeling excited about it, to be honest, so no regrets. See you in the next video.